On Sunday at 4:06 p.m., I received a call that James Gingrich had taken his own life. I have known Jim for about 15 years, and we took an immediate liking to one another. He was brash. I was brash. He was a bottom line guy. I was a bottom line guy. He liked to argue. I loved to argue. Jim didn't finish college, but he was one of the brightest men I've ever known. He was well versed on a variety of subjects and was extremely passionate about things he had interest in. He loved his friends and family. He loved Idaho, and he really loved America. Jim and I were the type of friends who could speak every day nonstop, which had been occurring for about the last year, or once a month, and it was like nothing ever changed. We always went right back into two dipshits being dipshits to one another. It's not like I'm saying I bet him to put on a shock collar for dogs and lit it up, and I'm not saying he dared me to eat a blue crayon at a restaurant for $20, but you know what I mean. Jim had his demons, as we all do, but his ended up winning in the end. On September 20th, 2020, I got a call that Jim was not doing well and was missing. Everyone was expecting the worst. They were right. Jim had tried to hang himself to end his life. I put tried in quotations because he didn't really try, and it was a call for help. I was called because he knew I would kick him in the ass and set him straight. It worked, or I thought it had worked. Over the last couple of years, Jim and I had become closer and closer. We would rage on the Rona, tons of political stuff, and how much we both loved, seriously, the premise of this show decades. Remember, he liked to argue, so this was like his Super Bowl, but it was weekly instead of once a year. I spoke to Jim on Friday after our last show. He kept saying, that is how the show should be. People talking, arguing, getting heated, but coming together in the end. He was beyond excited for the future of the show, and he thought it was a turning point towards greatness. It very well could be, but Jim will never know, and that pisses me off. Jim pisses me off. He pisses me off a lot. I'm extremely upset with him right now, and I'm sure I will be for quite some time. He let me down, he let his other friends down, and he let his family down. The way I'm getting through this is by thinking that Jim simply had one bad wire that went astray. Just like how one bad wire can spark a fire and burn down a home, this one bad wire sparked in his mind and burnt Jim's life to an end. The loss of Jim Gingrich is a tragedy, but we must learn from this tragedy and use it to help others, whether we think they need it or not. Reach out to someone. Keep reaching out. Never stop reaching out. Do your part and do it well. Never stop doing your part. That is all we can do now, and that is all we can continue to do in the future to slow down the suicide rate of middle-aged men. Yes, this is Jim's fault, but it is also not his fault.
Well said, Rubio.
Excellent job.
Very well said. Yes.
Oh, that was rough.
Good job.
You didn't think I would do it. All right. So I spoke to all of you guys, and I think every one of us was, saying, "What the hell are you talking about? Like this is a joke. Like this is just not a right thing. What's going on?" AC, you're usually the smoothest, most calm, collected. What? Give us some AC words right now, but take yourself off of mute.
When you sent me the text, Rube, my mental Rolodex starts spinning of the guys that I think that are in a space or capable of doing such a thing. And James was probably furthest from my thought process, man. He seemed like he was so confident and so well put together and so well versed and able to articulate his point of view, even though we didn't agree on everything. But I really respected what he had to say. And when you said what you said to me, and I'm just thinking like, but our show was getting to the crux of why this can be, something that we can kind of be the therapy for guys, like an outlet. And I thought he was getting his thoughts out there, and his voice was valid and important and needed. So I'm just floored, man. You never know what someone's going through. It just covers the whole. I never would have guessed, never would have known that he tried before. And then he was successful, unfortunately, this last time.
Yeah, and we were close before, and then kind of went apart a little bit. But then since about 2020, we've been talking a lot, and for about the past year since this show came about, I've been speaking to him probably no joke, 5 to 10 times a day through text, a couple times per week for a phone. And like I said, I just talked to him on Friday, and he was energetic, and we just gave each other, shit all the whole time. And then I get the call on Sunday at 4:06. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? And then I called his sister. I called Cindy, and that's basically his wife. And Amy picked up. That's his sister. And I was just like, what's happening? And I was so pissed. Like it just rubbed me the wrong way. Charles, you're the young one here. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I know I'm the new guy here, and it definitely did hit me hard though, because after my first show, Jim was texting me, and him and I, became decently close, and we would speak, privately. We would speak in the group chat, and kind of like you were saying, Rubio, I was just talking to him on Thursday and Friday. So, when you called me with it, I didn't have words at the time. I'm struggling now to put together words for it. It's like Anthony said, it's just, you never know. I never would have taken, I never would have thought that Jim was going through anything. And I think it illustrates why it's so important to check in on people and to let everyone know that, even if you don't agree with them on everything, that we are all a family here, and we're all here for each other.
I agree with that one, because we texted Jim, and we did that, and we were dudes. And you kind of go back to the thought of, okay, did we ever just say, hey, man, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And I know that's not the usual guy thing to do, but it's one of those that I think I got to kind of put that in my holster now, where I have to, instead of just BS with people all the time, it's one of those, all right, man, no, how are you doing? How are you doing? Are you okay? Because it's one of those that I know Jim could have contacted any one of us and just said, I'm having a shit day. Can I talk? Because for him to go through this, it kills me that we weren't able to figure something out. Bill, you were really dumbfounded when I told you.
Yeah, I was shocked. Kind of like what Charles said, I didn't know any of you guys before this show. I knew Rubio through my son, who was a long snapper and attended Rubio's sessions. But it was Jim who reached out right away. And it sounds like he did it with others too, which I wasn't aware of. I mean, that speaks a lot for the guy, in my opinion, that he just sort of reaches out to strangers and, just he was checking on us. I am still shocked about this. I'm shocked. I'm sad. I'm angry, confused. Clearly, there was something bothering the guy, and we didn't pick up on it. That's what's disappointing. We just didn't see it. And wasn't it Friday? We have these little side text groups after the show and during the week where we're throwing a bunch of shit at each other and just, kind of doing guy stuff. But he sent a series of videos of some music, country music in Idaho. Yeah. And I think the only word he put in there, the caption was America.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm thinking, oh, this guy's having a good time this weekend. Good for him.
Yeah.
Right.
So all the more I'm shocked.
Yeah, I remember when he did the first show with you, Bill, he said, I really like that Bill Geiser. He's kind of like a father figure to me. Obviously, if you were the father, I'll go to the great-great-grandfather. Judge, what are your thoughts, Judge?
Well, I knew Jim for a long time, obviously not as well as you did. He did go through some rough times, but everybody knew he was going through some rough times. And I think people did reach out. And I think it's a natural feeling when something like this happens to think, what could I have done? Should I have seen something? Should I have reached out more? But like you guys have said, he seemed to be at the top of his game, seemed to be having fun. Suicide's the ultimate selfish and irrational act. Sometimes you just don't see what's there, and sometimes they don't want you to see what's there. So, you can't reach out to. I can't reach out to all 7 of you or 6 of you and after the show and say, no, how are you feeling? Are you really feeling okay? I just don't think it's. I just don't think it's right to look at it as a rational act because it's the ultimate irrational act.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that's why I use that wire analogy, because we all looked at him. We're like, okay, he's going camping every weekend. He drops off the grid. He's having a good time. He's got these great arguments. He loved the damn show. He's doing this. He's having fun. And then you get this, and that's like just that one wire just hit wrong. Just that one wire hit wrong, and then it was okay. I'm going to do this. And it's just honestly, in my heart of hearts, I'm not placing a lot of blame or guilt on myself or anyone should, because I think it was just that one wire. I think we could have checked on him literally every single day. I'm not saying that we shouldn't keep checking on people every single day, but I just don't think that this was something that essentially could have been avoided at some point. I mean, unless someone was with him at all times, I don't know. I just don't know. And I think that's one thing that really bothers me, and I've spoken to you guys about, is that I don't like things that I can't figure out or I don't know. There's no ability for me to learn this. I just can't. And that really bothers me. And that's why I'm more pissed off at Jim's like, okay, before you do this, let me talk to you. Let me figure out what's going on. And can I, fix that wire? Brew, anything?
Well, I didn't know Jim before the show. Out of all of you guys, I only knew Ed, from our previous encounters, with Abbas and stuff. And Jim was always like calm, and he rarely smiled. He was always looked like he was together. And I think he mentioned once on LinkedIn that he had a prior mental something or other, like an in-passing, but it was hard to know that what he was going through lately, okay? And I would never guess that was going to be the end of it, I mean, it was impossible to pick up on it, okay? So, unfortunately, and I don't think any of us would be able to prevent that tragedy, unfortunately, okay? So that's my take on it, basically.
I agree with that. Subject, Ed?
Well, as I sit here, it's just kind of a surreal experience seeing all of us talking about a subject like this, seeing his spot empty, as a lot of you guys know, Bill, Jim, and I were typically on 15, 20 minutes before, just shooting the shit like guys do. It wasn't even necessarily about the show. It was about weather. It was about Chicago, or it was about, or what did Jim, what did he do? And that's, I'm like you, Rubio. My mind works logically. Things work for a logical reason. And when I see something like this, especially how much he loved this show, how much he loved being part of NGBN. I remember when Ian had reached out to him, he had emailed you and I, and he had said, he goes, I know you guys have a big part of Ian, got me into that. So he was like, he was all in from all. And I guess the fact that it was like all in just is, it's hard to rationalize in the mind. And I don't feel, it's not a guilt feeling. It's just kind of rationalizing that he can go from kind of that kind of thing. And it's like you said, it's like the wire analogy is perfect. It's, it fizzled, it's clicked. And the unfortunate part is when that wire fries, there's no reversing it. Once you're gone, once it goes, unless somebody's there to, stop you. And it's like we've had some talks, within the NGBN community, as Rubio and stuff, and it's I said the other night, it's like, we gotta check in. We gotta, somehow men need to start feeling safe to be able to talk about that, because I think that's one of the problems that we're dealing with, is everybody wants us to be talking about these emotions inside and how we're feeling. But the downside is once we do, there are people that still say, no, you shouldn't be doing that. So it's kind of, we're in a catch-22. So we keep it bottled. where we let and possibly go down, a death spiral, or we let it out and possibly be, well, he's not strong enough to lead. He's not this. He's not that. So, gonna miss the dude. We didn't agree on much, but we always had great conversations. He'd ask me questions about my size and my sub 60ness. I'd ask him stuff about the Idaho way. I mean, it's like when I chose him as the question, who would you want to hang out with? He's the one, because he was the adventurous. That's not that's completely opposite of what I'm used to. I'm used to city life, suburbs and stuff. You take me off the grid. I don't think I've ever been off the grid.
Except now you can go with the judge, and you guys can see everything eye to eye. So that'll be good.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because I can't go with you because I heard you're about as off the grid as myself.
No. Yeah, and the fact, and I want to wrap this up. I don't want to keep talking about this. I think we've done it. I want everyone to understand that. Yes, you keep checking on everything, and it can, if it happens, it's something like within the NGBN community, which that's the goal, is to help out middle-aged men. And if this happens, this is like a fire breaking out at an OSHA office. Like, this is just, it doesn't make sense at all. And it's one of those things that just like the judge said, we're not going to be able to check on literally every single person, but just do your part. Check on a couple people. If someone's had some issues in the past, double check on them. Let them know it's okay to, do what you got to do, be comfortable, but just really, really think about what your final decision can be and how it can affect others long after you do something that you think is the only way out. That'd be my big thing. On that note, this is episode 20 of Decades in honor of Jim Gingrich.